Hi everyone, it's Mark again, and I'm delighted to be joined by John Wallace. John is one of John, I think you're one of the first full members of our gang when we started the membership program. So that's great. Thank you for joining me today.
You're welcome. It's good. I didn't realize I was a founding member as such, but it's good to be here. I think the group's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely, founding member. So John is I coined the phrase sales supremo, which is fantastic, but also a musician, and there's lots going on both sides of that. And excitingly, John's very kindly said that he would share some of his expertise at one of our future meetings, so keep an eye out for that. But John, talk to me a little bit about those two strands of your professional life.
Yeah, it's strange. I mean, as a musician, you're literally born a musician. You can't get out of that. So since the early ages, I was singing and playing, and I was very fortunate. I sang as a soloist at Covent Garden at the age of 11 for 4 seasons, and with Kiri Takanawa, people like that. So as a Royal Opera House, I was singing at the Magic Flute. Second Genie was me. But when I reached my sort of later teens into early 20s, clearly you need to earn some money. So I was actually straddling being a very active musician in all sorts of things, and I was in bands. I found I was writing, composing as well at that point. It started to happen, and my career started going into more the sales area, and that was interesting because I don't like sales per se, which is weird because that's kind of a lot of money doing this stuff. But I take a different approach. I take a buying approach rather than a selling approach, and that's a whole conversation about why it's very effective, way easier than trying to sell to someone. So I ended up with these two parallel lives running until my, let's have a think, late 30s, I'd say. And then I decided that I needed to get out and reclaim my life. That was basically the thing. I was getting swamped by my day job. I had one published musical theatre piece with Samuel French already in the bag. I had another one which I was trying to promote and get out there. And I just felt it was time to make a move. And so I've ended up using my sales knowledge and skills to promote and enhance my music. And having got out from my corporate world, I started my own company, Consultancy, and I've run parallel lives where I'm working as a musician, but also as a consultant who goes in, rolls my sleeves up and does very practical help for people who want to sell more without being salesy. So that's what I do.
That's great. We've had a conversation earlier today, and I've learned so much about that. And I think it's really the anecdote that you have enhanced for me is the suggestion that I use this all a lot, and now I'm going to have to change it because you've made it so much more relevant. But is the example that somebody who goes into a hardware store to buy a 1/4-inch drill doesn't actually want a 1/4-inch drill. What they want is a 1/4-inch hole. And most people smile and recognize that, but you've taken this so much further, because actually that's not the end of the story, is it?
It's really not, no. I call it going deep and wide, is that you need to really understand what's motivating someone, and it is a risk thing. That's a whole conversation, but it's basically risk. What's motivating to, in that case, want the hole? And they say, well, in that case, it could be they need to put a screw into the wall. And people go, oh, that's brilliant. I know they want a screw now. No. Why do they want the screw? Maybe it's hanging a picture. And you think, why do they want the picture? Maybe it's actually because their partner, their other half, needs the picture hung there. And actually what you're selling, by giving them the drill, ultimately, is a happy life.
Yes, I imagine that's just brilliant, because I stopped at the hole, and some people stop at the drill in sales. But I imagine that almost every sales situation could lead back to that happy life.
Ultimately, it does. I mean, every conversation when I'm working with a business, and it can be a startup single to large corporates, and I'm literally doing that at the moment with with people, is that I just change mindset. That's the crucial thing on this. It's a buying process, not a selling process. When you get that into your head, everything changes for the better. It becomes a way easier to have a conversation, way easier to actually engage and start having that conversation. It's not when you're halfway down the line. It's the beginning of the whole thing. And as I say, it's very effective, and it means that the reason why it's important, the fundamental reason, and people listening to this now recognize, is that when you want something, you start to buy into it, you actually decide you want it. So you budget for it, you make it happen. You push away people who aren't this. So in effect, from a sales perspective, you'll find that your buyer is pushing away your competitors. They want you. They'll tell you all sorts of things. So this is why it's a very, very warm, nice process to go through.
Yeah. And that there is always what's the word? I think suspicion and perhaps a lack of respect for anyone who's in that position in a sales role, because they think it's, sell it, numbers, targets, commissions, bonuses. But buying and selling happen, whether we like it or not, buying and selling happens all over the world. It's happening now. We're all we're all happy to do it, both buying and selling. But I love your approach to that. You've completely sort of turned my thinking on its head, even in the last 20 minutes about, I've got to sell that, I've got to sell that, I've got to sell that. I actually now not going to ever use the word sell ever again. I think you helped me with that. I'm going to let that person buy this plan. I'm going to let that person buy this sponsorship opportunity. And when it's the word buy, help buy rather than sell, it completely, it's very clever of you, because it completely changes the conversation that you have.
It changes also the preparation. So behind the scenes, we all come up with these so-called unique selling points. And I hate to tell people, they basically don't exist. That's a bit scary to think of. They are potential areas of value. If you think of them in those terms, they're just potential value that someone else might value. I call them value hooks when you get it right. So you turn a USP to a value hook. I call it that because if you get the conversation right, someone says, I, as a buyer, value that, and I'm going to hook it. That's what I actually want from you. And it's usually not what you think you were going to sell to them, which is why there's a mismatch. So it's very important to behind the scenes to reevaluate what your USPs, your value areas, in a way that someone would actually buy from you, and you just wait for the right moment and tell them the one thing that connects.
Now that one thing, I think it's so important. It needs an acronym. So if an outward sales approach uses a unique selling proposition or a unique selling point, which is, this is what makes me special and this is why I'm coming to sell this to you, what's the opposite of that? What's the unique buying trigger?
Proposition. It's a UBP, unique buying proposition. It's been coined by one of my strong clients at the moment. They said it's a UBP. It's USP's gone, UBP, and they actually push it out, and they have me help them do that with their clients. We transform. We actually transform businesses which are really skilled at knowing about themselves and marketing, who are struggling. And I sit in front of them and I change mindset, and they go, "Oh, had it yesterday. I was with a new client, and I was with the chief exec of a large, multi-million-pound business." And the guy goes, "That's amazing. I'm going to get you in front of all my people next week, individually, to work with them to reevaluate how to take what we currently do to the market in a different way."
Yeah, I love that. So let's spin the coin, and I want to know more about what's going in the music strand. Music being written, choirs being led. What's going on?
So no, that gets me really passionate, because music clearly is my life, really. So the most exciting thing at the moment for me is I'm writing a new musical. So I've got a couple of published ones out there at the moment. One with Weinberger's, one with Samuel French, and over the years, I've been asked to get involved with different musicals, and it's rare that I take one on, because you're going to commit your life to it, to make it work. And it was through a business networking colleague, actually, who put me in touch with someone, and I won't bore you with all the details. Suffice to say that I'm writing a musical with a Las Vegas magician, who is now moved on from that, and she's American, so I've never met her. In fact, she's Canadian, but living in America, now back in Canada. The book writer and lyricist is American. Again, I've never met them, because clearly they're 8,000 miles away from me. I'm near London. And we're writing this virtually. We have regular Zoom calls. We are exchanging ideas, writing songs. We've created demos with people from around the world, our contacts. And I've got one guy who's lovely. I knew him when he was in London. but actually lives in Sydney now in Australia. So he's sung remotely for me, recorded his parts, bring them. 'Cause I'm also a sound engineer, I should say, so I'm able to actually do the recording side as well. So we have got this thing going on, and the musical is about female magicians who have been forgotten and slighted over the last 150 years because of male-dominated society and world that they lived in, particularly. And it's an interesting story in that the Ariane Black, the magician who's researched this, is collated their life stories. And Ariel, the book writer, has created a story that brings this very strands of these life experiences of the musicians together, such that it creates a coherent whole, and they all form strands of parts of Ariane, her world, and her personality. So the musical is about putting together and making sense of that. And it's a fantastic story that's been put together. Found really good music opportunities for me. The imagery, I love that. When I start a song, I shut my eyes and imagine sitting in an auditorium and experiencing the mood, the feeling, the buzz you get. And that's the starting point for my music. It's not what tune am I going to write. It's a bit like selling, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this is exactly how I approach it, because I think, what is someone who turns up at a theatre when they're going to pay money? Why would they pay money? It's not to hear a nice song. It's like the hole and the nail and the screwdriver thing.
Mm.
They're looking to get a warm experience, an emotional experience. That's what they're buying.
Mm.
So my starting point for my music is, what experience should that person have and I literally sit in my studio, sometimes with the lights turned off. I sit there and I just imagine experiencing the emotion of connecting with the character on stage in the story. And then the keyboard's in front of me and I just start playing something. And from that, I get the hook. And that's what I need. I know that there has to be a level of structure, but of course I actually like my music to be structured, but also interesting and unstructured. So I extend over the 4-bar phrase to the 5 and that, and sometimes the time signatures will change because the rhythms dictate what the time signature should be, things like that. So it's the emotion experience, and then the technical, the drill, and that side of it is actually the framework of the song. If you think about it, that's like the time signature, the key should be in that. But that's not my starting point. It has to be 4/4/5/4, whatever, 7/8, whatever it's going to be. I come in it and go, you know what? What's the mood? What's the emotion? What's the flow of this song? So there is a massive crossover. So people tell me that my music is very emotive and gives them a strong buzz, which I love.
That's great, John. I mean, I love the idea of you sitting there in a dark room and just keyboard. Yeah, I can see that. You know, there's a moment in The Greatest Showman. What's the big ballad? Where she's on the stage and it's lit from behind and there's all the audience, and it's that sort of, it's not This Is Me, it's the other one. Lauren Arrett recorded it.
This is the Jenny Lynn number, is it? I can't think of the song.
Yes, the Jenny Lynn number, yeah.
Yeah.
It's trying to capture, it's almost waiting for that song to start, isn't it? You're sitting there. I mean, I had a similar tingle there's a great song in the movie Eurovision called Husavik. I don't know if you know it, but it's absolutely worth a listen. It has that similar kind of capacity to make you think you're there, and it's hearing this wonderful piece of music. It's great. It's worth a listen to. So where can we? Sorry, go on.
I was going to say on the songs. I mean, songs that people don't know. If it's well written, people get a sense it's going to be special, and they can't wait to hear the newness and the experience it for the first time. When you hear a great song for the first time, it's amazing. You can't never recreate that. So, this is fun. But then, of course, when you know the song, you anticipate the emotional buzz you're going to get from it.
Yeah.
And it can be any genre. It doesn't need to be any particular style of music.
Oh,
you just know
the
buzz you're going to get.
If I make the decision to put Papano's Tosca on YouTube, that I'm getting rushed now just thinking about doing that later. You know,
yeah, we all get that side of it, and it's great.
So where can we find more information about both of these strands of your professional life?
Oh, okay. So my business website is agilesuccess.co.uk.
Okay.
www.
I'll make sure that these links are all wherever this appears.
Sure.
And what about the music?
The music side, I need to update my website now. You actually asked me, but I got johntrentwallace.com.
John Trent Wallace,
johntrentwallace.com.
WALLACE.
ACE, yeah, JOHNTRENTWALLACE.com. That's a starting point. There's links on there, as you can imagine. And if you want to drop me a line, I'm very happy to connect and to chat, and share some SoundCloud, which I can hear snippets of things on there, which is fun.
Brilliant. John, thank you so much for doing this. I'm really excited for the 10-minute talk that you're going to do later in the year at one of our events. That's fantastic. I'll make sure that links are dotted around wherever this appears. But meanwhile, thank you so much for being one of our longest standing full members. And it's great. I really appreciate it. And thanks for doing this today.
Thank you.